Before we get into the video, I want to let you guys know that I'm going to be linking a couple of different resources, a bunch of different spreadsheets and information on websites that you guys can currently use to prepare yourself better for 9.1. Things include Manthieus' new spreadsheet, some of Penguin spreadsheets. If you guys don't know, I'm going to be linking everything down below, the Under My Journal, Wowhead, and things like that, just so you guys are aware. Check it out in the description below. Let's get into the video. Welcome guys into a little bit of a different video. Now this is a video going into what you can do for 9.1 preparation. A lot of people ask, and it's, you know, it's the same every single patch. They ask, what should I do to prepare for 9.1, right? Or what should I do to prepare for the next patch? Now this could be in obviously in PvE ways, PvP ways, gold making ways. We are obviously interested most in the gold making. Now this is obviously a little bit of a different expansion. We are at quite the delayed patch. You know, a lot of things have been impacting the world, so WoW is in a little bit of a different spot than it usually is. Something that we all have to consider is the fact that a lot of people are still impacted by COVID, right? We're gonna go into the summer here very soon, and a lot of people can't travel around the world like they maybe usually do because COVID still has restrictions at a lot of countries. So a lot of people are probably going to be sitting inside and playing a lot more WoW than they usually do. Now obviously there are some of us that are cave dwellers, or you know, other descriptions of what something is when they sit inside and play WoW all day, because you know, I do that. But something that we can start out by saying, and this is the most obvious one, is start out on your reputation. If you do not have something that's always important, if you do not have your reputation up, this is always a good idea, because Blizzard adds things throughout every single patch. They add new, obviously they add new reputation every once in a while. Obviously we see the Devs Advance coming up in 9.1, which is something that's very important to focus on. But talking about the other ones, throughout this whole expansion, Blizzard has the opportunity to add things, to change things, and having reputations at revered, or even if you can at exalted, on your mostly used characters, crafters specifically, is always a good idea. It's always a good idea, because then you are ahead of mostly everyone else that isn't doing that content, and that is pretty much the most simple thing that I can give you guys. The next one in line: clean out your bags, clean out your inventory, clean out your guild banks, clean out your personal banks, everything along those lines, because then you are ready to take in what you can for 9.1, right? You have a lot of new space if something new comes out. Obviously this next upcoming patch, it doesn't introduce any new materials, but it introduces a lot of new different content. Now talking about new different content, keeping yourself up to date, especially when it comes to gold making, something that I recommend that you guys do is you look at the patch notes, you look at if there's something interesting that you have to remember, changes on systems that we currently have, everything that we need to know that is upcoming in the patch. Now obviously you don't have to look through all of it yourself. You can also join communities, ask questions, you can ask streamers, me included, because we are usually always pretty up to date on what happens on the PTR and what kind of news that we do get. Some of the things that you currently have to remember is that we are going to pretty fast, you know, a couple weeks into it, is what Blizzard is saying, is we're going to be getting flying. Now what does flying mean for the game? That means that ores and herbs are going to be able to be farmed more, right? They're going to be able to be farmed faster than usual in a bigger amount, and that could potentially mean that they're going to go down even further. Now obviously for the start of the patch, a lot of people are going to be returning to the game, which means that they're not instantly going to crash, because we also aren't getting flying instantly. So very early on in the patch there might be high enough demand for the prices to go up, but when flying does come out, the prices are going to get to a point where they get even lower than they have before. Now the next thing in line is you guys need to get on top of your profession game. Now you need to look at the professions that you have, and then you need to consider and make sure that you look at everything that is coming out in 9.1 absolutely everything for the profession so you can be prepared for what's coming. Something that I would recommend a lot of people is, at the moment, we don't see 9.1 getting any, what do you call it, new crafted consumables, which means that we're going to be using potentially the same consumables. And if we do get new ones, it seems that we're going to be using the same materials that we currently have, and not any new ones, because the new zone is not big enough to actually give us any new materials, and I would imagine that we at this point would already have seen them. So in that sense, I would recommend that you guys look at the current materials that we're using, look at the ones that are always running out of stock on your server, and make sure you have enough for when the patch comes out. Because when the patch comes out, hype is going to start in the game again, and depending on your server, depending on raiding guilds, whatever players play on there is a lot of demand, and prices are probably going to go up high again. The secondary thing is the most important one for people that are actually in that market. It's obviously very expensive, and that is base legendaries. Now, base legendaries, even at this point in the game, right? At this point in the game, we are at a point where we can still consistently sell base legendaries at 235, 225, 210, 190. Obviously, on a lot of servers, the profits on these are not as good as other servers, but there's definitely still a lot of profit to be had. As you can see here, the last 20 days for me, almost 20 days, I've been able to sell 970, not counting the couple of green items in between here, 970 base legendaries in the last 19-20 days. That is an absolute obscene amount, and I'm currently getting into more and more base legendaries. As you can see, I have leatherworking pieces, I have blacksmithing pieces, I have cloth pieces. Now, obviously, it's very expensive to get into all of these markets, but I would recommend that you guys definitely check it out and check out your servers, check out the profits that are potentially to be had on your individual servers, because this is one of those markets that is gonna probably exist throughout the entire expansion. We are currently looking at 9.1 and seeing that the need of rank 4 legendaries is still very much a thing. On the PTR, we are seeing items like the Vestige of Origins. Now, the Vestige of Origins is a crafted material that you can make in your selected profession, of course, and then you can add it as an optional reagent onto your base legendary that's going to get crafted. And obviously, with a new patch coming out, there's going to be class balancing changes, which means that the best in slot pieces for people that are raiding, doing Mythic Plus, doing PvP, whatever it is, are going to change, right? So a lot of people are going to be buying up new legendaries that are potentially at a higher rank, and that is very important for you guys to notice, because you know what that means? That means that the current ranks that we currently have, rank 4 is still going to be used, maybe even further ranks down low, right? Rank 3s, rank 2s, rank 1s, because they also have the opportunity to add the Vestige of Origins to upgrade the rank. Now, something that's very important to notice is the fact that we still don't exactly know how impactful the upgrading of the legendaries are going to be. We have this new secondary material that is required for the Vestige of Origins that's called Corphia, right? The other materials are materials we already have, but it seems like placeholders right now. We don't know if it's going to be 100% stick on the ground, and we also don't know how many Corphia we can currently get from all the content that we have in 9.1, so a lot of unanswered questions are still existing. But I will recommend you guys definitely look, if you have a good amount of liquid, and I'm gonna say probably at least 1 million up to 4 or 5 million or more, the legendary market is a good idea. And if you're already in the legendary market, you probably already know, but invest into markets revolving around the legendaries. For me, now I'll give you guys a couple of hitters that are currently going out of stock often for me, and that is going to be Elefium. Now, Elefium ore is one of those things that when we get flying, a lot of people are going to be able to get these, right? But where you're going to be making most of your gold if you go into legendaries is when the patch comes out. Exactly when the patch comes out, the first couple of weeks. Now, Elefium ore, on this is Terran Mill. This is one of the full puffs in EU, and Alephium ore almost always runs out on the auction house, and it raises in price constantly, right? It gets dumped again over time, but more and more people are getting into this. And when the demand picks up for legendaries, when it gets more crazy than it is pretty slowed down right now, I'm telling you, these are probably going to be out of stock, and if they're not going to be out of stock, they're going to be very pricey. So I would recommend investing in Alephium ore to be absolutely certain that you have everything you need when it comes to that. Now, secondary in line is, I would also recommend that if you can make, through enchanting, if you can make your enchanted materials, your enchanted lightless silk, your enchanted heavy calcite, your enchanted leafing bars, I would recommend that you go ahead and craft all of these before you get to the actual patch. Okay? Don't craft your legendaries. Don't craft an obnoxious amount that you have to sell before the patch comes out. Because if we can sell the upgradable legendaries, we're going to be needing materials. Now, obviously, for the Vestige of Origins, we are not going to be needing the enchanted materials. We're going to be needing lesser materials like lightless silk, shrouded cloth, and all those things. So don't make all of your materials into enchanted, but just so you're ahead of the crafting time, so you have it ready for when it comes out. The other thing in line is the essences, right? The essence of valor, the essence of torment, the essence of rebirth, and then the essence of servitude. Now, these obviously are the 4 ones that you can get for jewel crafting and things like that. And these are, they were always out of stock when it first started out, and you can currently see there's not that many on here. And if you want to get to the point of being able to buy these, or if you want to prospect for them, you can also look for all the ore. Now, all the ore is, you know, the oxine, the selenium, the synvir, and phaedrum. And obviously on a lot of servers, they are always high in quantity, so not necessarily get into those. But other than that, when it comes, if you guys are one of those individuals that is into leatherworking, I mean, get into calcite. You have to probably pre-invest in calcite. It is at one of its lowest points ever, and as we get further and further along towards 9.1, more and more people are going to be preparing for the fact that 9.1 comes out. And if you are too late into investing into these things, you are going to be risking potentially paying a lot more than everybody else. Now, you can see here that on a big server like Terran Mill, we have 350 gold heavy calcite. This is around 70 to 100 gold more than I saw this a couple weeks ago. So people are already getting on top of it. People are already investing again. And it's very important for you guys to actually get on top of this, because otherwise you're going to be lacking behind. So I would recommend getting into that as well. But other than that, I mean, obviously every single market that's revolving around the legendaries, if you guys have any idea about what they actually are, you know what all the materials are. As the last thing, I would recommend that you guys get ready for a grind. It's not going to be a serious grind, but in 9.1, we are going to be having some barriers to entry when it comes to crafting. Okay? This is very important, very important. Depths Advance. When you can buy, currently, the moment that you can buy the Vestige of Origins is at Honored. Now, Honored isn't that far into your reputation, but it is very important because it's not account wide. So if you have multiple professions that do base legendaries, okay, multiple professions that do base legendaries, you are not going to be able to take that recipe and move it over to your other account. You literally have to get it on every single one. So the moment that 9.1 comes out, I recommend that you guys go hard and get all the reputation that you possibly can in every single way. And now there's also a lot of other recipes for other professions. So whatever professions that you guys like, make sure that you check out the Quartermaster for Depths Advance. It's very important because then you can prepare yourself for the fact that that's going to be a thing. The additional thing I'd like to say about the base legendaries is the fact that in 9.1 we are going to be getting obviously Torghast again. It's going to be an upgraded Torghast. There's some, you know, changes to how there's more cosmetic rewards, the scoring system is different, so on and so forth. But the most important part of of news for us gold makers is the fact that they're not going to be offering refunds for legendaries. So if they need to swap over to another legendary, they need to make another legendary, which means another base legendary, which is really good for gold makers. The other thing in line is the fact that when you get, I think it's layer 9 in 9.1, when you have completed layer 9, you can buy soul ash on the character that has done that for like 1500 soul ash, and you can move 1300 over to an alt. Now that means that the base legendaries, the amount of base legendaries that we're probably going to be able to sell is going to be higher, because more people are potentially going to make more legendaries on alts as well. So I would recommend that to be absolutely certain. The next thing, or like the last thing that I'd like to mention to you guys, is the fact that don't be afraid to invest, right? Do not be afraid to invest. This is the time where you can make the big bucks. This is the time where you can actually also, it can also go the other way. If it doesn't work out in your favor, you might be able to lose, or you might risk losing a lot of gold, but this is where you're going to be making a lot of your gold. A point that happens again and again is a lot of old world materials from previous expansions are probably really low. I mean, if you guys are currently looking at crafting or flipping, a lot of old world materials are pretty low right now, and they're upping in quantity a lot, and that's because a lot of people don't have much to do currently in WoW, and that is something that they return to. But I guarantee you, when 9.1 comes out, a lot of people are going to be going away from all the old world content to do 9.1 content, which means that less people are going to be posting the old world stuff. There's going to be less quantities, which means the prices could potentially rise. So if you're wanting to get into old world stuff as well, I would recommend this being the time to invest. But that is basically all I had to say. If you guys have anything that you think is a good idea to prepare for in 9.1, additionally to what I said, I know this was heavily kind of a rambling video, a discussion video, but I was pretty happy with what I got to say here. But if you have any comments, any corrections, any additions to what I just said, make sure you pop them down in the comments below. Share the video. We are obviously going to be talking about this every single day that we do stream. I usually stream Monday through Friday on twitch.tv/Usefull at around 6 p.m. CEST, and obviously respective to your time, so that might be a little different. That's why I say CEST, which is Central European Summer Time, just so you guys know. But that is going to be it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I will see you next time. See ya!